She stands at the edge of a planet that shouldn't exist. The air is too still, the clouds don't move. The gravity feels like memory, present but unprovable. Beneath her, the soil hums without vibration. There is no wind, no noise, no refusal. The world accepts her presence with the indifference of a mirror. It is neither alive nor dead, it is paused. She exhales inside the helmet, and her breath fogs for a moment, then vanishes too fast, like it was erased instead of absorbed. This is not Earth, but it isn't alien either. It feels calculated, like someone built it not to be noticed, but to be almost remembered. The sky above her is liquid blue, unbroken, no satellites, no birds, no friction. It's as if the atmosphere is holding its breath, as if the planet is waiting for her to say something, something she doesn't yet know. She looks down. The sand is white, not the white of chalk or salt, but the kind of white that looks like a blank surface, like a data field. Each grain perfectly hexagonal, each one a decision. She kneels, touches the surface. The material gives slightly, then reshapes. No resistance, no texture. It feels like touching silence. Above the horizon, a second sun appears, paler, slower, too symmetrical. Its arc is wrong. Its light doesn't cast shadows. She tilts her head, watching the scene behave like an unfinished simulation. Not glitching, just hesitating. As if reality here is waiting for input, a password, a signal, or maybe just a witness. She removes the glove. Her hand meets the atmosphere. No burn, no chill, only stillness, like dipping into a thought. The sensors show no toxins, no radiation, no life. Nothing dangerous, nothing protective, just nothing. And yet, she feels watched. Not by the planet, by the idea of it, as if it was never meant to be touched, only observed. And as her hand hovers above the surface again, not quite returning, not quite leaving, one question expands across the frame. Not as voice, but as pressure. What if this planet is not waiting for us, but remembering us? I remember the first time I heard the term superhabitable. It sounded like science fiction, a word made to seduce, to provoke envy in a world already on fire. A planet not just livable, but better than Earth. More stable, more water, more oxygen, fewer extremes. A place where life wouldn't just survive, but thrive. Where everything we consider rare is default. Not a miracle, a blueprint. And I remember thinking, if such a place exists, what does that make us? She walks now through a forest of mineral glass. The trees don't move, but they refract the light in patterns too consistent to be natural. Like the planet is designing beauty on purpose. Her footsteps don't echo, not because the forest is silent, but because it listens. And whatever she gives it, it absorbs completely. We like to believe Earth is unique, that no other world could hold us the way this one does. But that's not science, that's comfort. Emotion mistaken for fact. In reality, Earth might be an average compromise in a universe full of better options. We've just never been forced to admit it. The Kepler data alone, nearly 5,000 confirmed exoplanets. Dozens in the habitable zone, some larger, more massive, with thicker atmospheres to shield against radiation. Tectonically alive, magnetically protected, chemically balanced. Oceans twice the depth of ours. Atmospheres richer in nitrogen and oxygen. No deserts. No ice caps. Constant twilight. Photosynthesis at full efficiency. Planets that didn't fight life. They welcomed it. They wanted it. She stands at the edge of one such ocean. The water is clear but refracts with a density Earth's oceans can't mimic. Each wave seems intentional, like it's computing her presence. She removes her helmet, slowly, carefully, and breathes in. The air smells like ozone and something else, not floral, not industrial. A scent without category. It doesn't trigger memory. It creates new space in the brain, as if the body is being rewritten to accept this world as its origin. She smiles, but only slightly, then frowns. Not because something is wrong, but because nothing is, and that's the part she doesn't trust. We define home as the place that holds our flaws without collapsing. But what if there's a planet that doesn't need to forgive us? One that has no scars, no memory of violence, no fault lines, literal or metaphorical. Would we feel safe? The gravity here is softer, not weak, just considerate, like it's aware of the body and chooses not to press. The light adapts to her eyes. The terrain offers no resistance, and still, something in her posture hesitates, as if she's too visible, as if the planet is mirroring her biology back at her, one breath behind. She touches the water. It doesn't splash. It rises to meet her hand, surface tension behaving like choice. There is no hunger here, no friction, no decay. And that is precisely why she feels afraid, because if a planet is this perfect, why are we only discovering it now? And more importantly, who else already did? Because the moment she realizes she isn't the first to stand here, isn't the first to breathe this air or fear this stillness, the whole scene tilts. Not physically, but conceptually. This isn't discovery, it's return. And maybe we didn't evolve on Earth at all. Maybe we just survived there longer than expected. She walks deeper into the forest. The light behind her fades without dimming. The silence remains total, but now it feels like a heartbeat. The trees begin to align in patterns she didn't notice before. Spirals, recursive loops, structures too symmetrical for randomness. She doesn't say a word, but the planet responds anyway. Something shifts under her feet. Not a tremor, not danger, just awareness. And as her body continues forward, her mind begins to slide sideways. Into a memory that isn't hers. A memory this world has kept waiting. In 2015, scientists discovered a planet 1.6 times larger than Earth, orbiting a calm, long-lived star 1,200 light-years away. They called it Kepler 452b. The headlines called it Earth's cousin. But the numbers were off. The planet was too massive, the star too old. Still, the image stuck. A better Earth, waiting just beyond reach. The truth is, planets like that aren't rare. What's rare is our willingness to believe they might be more than numbers, that they might be places, lived in, felt, real. She walks through a canyon now, though canyon isn't quite the word. The rock is smooth but not worn, eroded by neither time nor weather. It feels extruded, printed, like architecture masquerading as geology. Each wall breathes faint heat, not from sunlight, but from some internal balance, as if the crust itself maintains its own temperament. There is no wind, but her hair moves gently, drawn by gradients she can't see. No dust, no scent, just the mineral quiet of something self-contained. She doesn't feel small, she feels measured. One fact lives in her chest. The most habitable planet known to science might not be Earth. The criteria are brutal: stability, atmosphere, magnetic field, temperature range, orbital duration, stellar consistency. Earth scores well, but not best. Some planets orbit red dwarfs with lifespans measured in trillions of years. Their temperatures never spike, their skies never burn. Their atmospheres are thick enough to shield radiation, but light enough to let color in. No ice ages, no mass extinctions, just time. Quiet, endless time. She touches the rock beside her. It is warm, not like skin, like intention. As if the planet maintains a constant invitation, not urgent, not pleading, just ready. Habitability is not comfort. It's alignment, a matching of systems, biological, chemical, atmospheric, a silent handshake between planet and species. And on this world, the handshake feels seamless. No immune response, no microbial hostility. The planet does not reject her, but it also doesn't welcome her. It accommodates. And that's more dangerous, because we are not evolved for ease. We are evolved for tension, for adaptation, for conflict. This world removes the edge, and in the absence of struggle, what becomes of identity? She passes a series of crystalline structures rising from the canyon floor. At first, she thinks they're natural, but their geometry is too precise. Icosahedrons, nested, refracting light in impossible angles. They hum softly, as if reacting to proximity. No frequency, just vibration. She kneels, places her hand near one. It doesn't move, but something in her blood does, as if the vibration bypasses sound and touches memory. She sees things that aren't hers. Landscapes she's never visited, names she's never said, a lullaby in a language she doesn't know. Her heart rate slows, not from peace, from resonance. There's a theory in astrobiology called panspermia, the idea that life didn't begin on Earth, but arrived here, seeded by meteorites or ancient civilizations. Most scientists dismiss it as fringe, but when she stands here, in the presence of things that know her without recognizing her, the theory no longer feels absurd. It feels inevitable. What if life didn't start once, but many times? What if Earth wasn't our origin, but our detour? A breeze rises, the first motion of air since her arrival. It doesn't cool, it informs. Each molecule seems encoded with something more than temperature. She feels it in her teeth, her spine, a pulse that matches her own, then falls out of sync, then matches again. The canyon opens into a field, flat, reflective, like a sheet of obsidian stretching miles in all directions. She walks forward. Her boots make no sound. Her shadow trails her, but there is no light source strong enough to cast it. It feels staged. There's a fact she can't ignore. Earth's position in the cosmic timeline is not special. We are early. The universe is young. In 5 billion years, our star will die, but red dwarfs will still burn. Life on other worlds may just be beginning, or may have already ended, unnoticed. And if somewhere, someone solved habitability, not through adaptation, but through design, what would that look like? It would look like this. A planet with no predators, no extremes, no decay. A planet where entropy slows, not reverses. Where structure holds without reinforcement. Where evolution is optional. Where the world does not challenge the body, it curates it. She lies down now on the black surface. The material supports her weight, not like ground used, but like memory foam made of logic. Above her, the sky shifts. No stars, just a dim wash of color, gradients like a sleeping monitor. She closes her eyes. The darkness inside her eyelids is not empty. It contains a hum, a rhythm, a suggestion. This planet doesn't feel discovered. It feels remembered. And somewhere in that memory, something is waking. Not her, not it, but something in between. There's a point where familiarity becomes suspicion. When the body begins to recognize something, it has no reason to know. The feeling is subtle at first, like walking into a room that smells exactly like your childhood, but you've never been there before. She feels it now with every step. The terrain doesn't just accommodate her, it preempts her. The path curves before she turns. The temperature shifts before she shivers. Even the light bends to preserve clarity in her gaze. This isn't comfort, it's choreography. And the longer it continues, the more she realizes she's not exploring, she's being shown. There's a hypothesis in planetary science that certain biospheres could evolve intelligence at the planetary scale. Not organisms, not cities, but the planet itself. Not conscious like humans, but responsive, patterned, structured around a logic that we mistake for chance. On this world, the hypothesis stops being theoretical. Every surface seems tuned, not symmetrical, intentional. The plants don't grow toward the light finds them. The water doesn't flow down, it waits, suspended in gravity until it's needed. The sky isn't random, it loops through gradients with such slow precision that it could be reading moods. She enters a structure now. She didn't see it until she was next to it. Like it emerged from the air only once her presence required it. It's not a building, no walls, no ceiling, just columns of shifting material, translucent and thick, like frozen breath. The space isn't shelter, it's interface. And in the center, something pulses, a slow rhythmic dimming, not light, not heat, a suggestion of presence, not human, not mechanical, something else, something ambient. She approaches it without realizing, not curiosity, compulsion. Like her steps are rerouted by something beneath cognition. The pulse matches her heartbeat, then overrides it just by a fraction, just enough to notice. She touches the surface. It doesn't respond, not immediately, but she feels it, the way a person might feel an echo in the ribs, an emotion too large to name, not fear, not awe, something denser, something ancestral. Like a buried instinct waking up after being asleep for millennia. There's a chill now, not in the air, but in the thought. What if this world didn't just allow life? What if it archived it? What if its perfection comes not from randomness or evolution, but from repetition? Iteration, selection. She backs away, slowly. Her breath tightens. The suit regulates pressure, but her lungs feel crowded. Not with carbon dioxide, with implication. She turns. Outside, the light has changed again. A different angle, a new temperature. And on the horizon, she sees something she didn't notice before. A line of symmetry, perfectly horizontal, stretching across the sky like a fold. It's not a structure, it's a boundary. Not of geography, but of protocol. And the truth lands hard in her chest. She's crossed into something she doesn't understand. Not a place. A phase. Planets don't usually reject or accept. They exist, but this one seems to observe, to process, not in emotion, in logic. And logic has thresholds. Maybe she was never meant to come this far. She starts walking back, but the path doesn't return. The terrain no longer curves toward her. The light no longer adjusts. Everything is still functional, but now it's indifferent. Like the system has finished its scan. Like her presence has been logged, and now she's irrelevant. The trees are back, but not quite the same. Their shapes are too perfect. Their colors too static, like the planet is restoring its original state, without her in it. She's no longer the observer. She's residue. She stops, listens, nothing. No pulse, no hum, not even silence, just the absence of contrast. And in that absence, she feels a shift, not in the planet, but in her. The terrain isn't mirroring her anymore, it's becoming her. The curvature of the hills, the density of the air, the warmth of the light, it all begins to resemble her internal state. And she realizes something that stings more than fear. This planet was never reacting to her, it was reconstructing her. She tries to speak, just to test the air, but no sound emerges. Not because her voice is gone, but because the world no longer needs it. Language here feels obsolete. Her thoughts stay inside her body, but the environment tightens around them, as if translating in reverse, not from mind to matter, but from matter back to memory. She steps forward, and the terrain folds like paper, effortlessly adjusting its topology to her weight. Not like a machine, not like magic, like anatomy. As if the planet isn't a place anymore, but an extension of her nervous system, mapping stimuli with the elegance of instinct. And for the first time since landing, she stops feeling foreign, not welcome, not safe, just included, seamlessly, invisibly, without need for explanation or defense. There's a theory, still marginal, that consciousness isn't an emergent property of the brain, but a fundamental fabric of the universe, like gravity or light. And that biological forms are not the source of awareness, but receivers, filters, tuning forks. She feels that theory now not as a belief, but as contact, as if her body has been retuned, and the frequency of this world is no longer alien, it's native. She walks through a field of motionless grass, though grass is a lazy word. The stalks pulse with internal phosphorescence, each one flickering at slightly different intervals, like a synchronized error. Her boots no longer make sound. The tactile feedback beneath her feet is replaced with something more precise, haptic tension, like walking across the memory of touch. She removes the helmet completely, not out of defiance, but clarity. The air here doesn't feel like atmosphere. It feels like intention condensed. Oxygen, yes, but also something unnamed, something that fills not the lungs, but the gaps between thoughts. As she inhales, the tension in her muscles drops, not from comfort, from recalibration. Her sense of time slips sideways, not distorted, just reprioritized. Past and future become less distinct, sequences blur, events feel optional. She reaches a structure, low, spherical, smooth as obsidian, but softer like skin stretched across architecture. She touches it. The surface reacts, folding open without sound, revealing an interior that isn't dark but dimensionless. Not empty, but undifferentiated, like stepping into a thought that hasn't been formed yet. She enters. The doorway seals behind her, but she doesn't feel enclosed. The space expands to her breath, her pulse, her hesitation. There are no walls, only gradients, and in the center, a form. Not human, not mechanical, but proportioned, vaguely feminine. A silhouette made of negative space, like a human absence etched into atmosphere. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't approach. Instead, she waits. The figure remains motionless, but something in the room thickens. Not the air, the implication. Her skin responds first. Tiny adjustments in surface temperature, micro-tensions in the fascia, like her body is remembering how to feel without external cues. Then comes the auditory shift. Not sound, exactly. A resonance, as if her own inner frequency is being matched and then duplicated. Not for attack, not for merging, for listening. She finally speaks, not out loud but inward. And she doesn't say words. She gives weight, images, feelings, a childhood memory of salt wind, the ache of standing still too long, the sensation of not being understood, and the figure responds, not with answers but with echo. The feelings come back sharper but quieter, processed, not judged, like a system that doesn't decode but renders. She realizes something crucial. This world doesn't want to teach her anything. It only wants to translate. She steps closer and the figure dissolves, not from fear, from completion. Its purpose was never contact. It was calibration. And now the room begins to shift again, not around her, but through her. As if her entire interiority is being restructured to match the logic of this place. The guilt, the noise, the fragmentation. It all drops away, not erased, not healed, just no longer useful. Outside, the planet has changed. The sky has deepened, stained with color gradients that mirror the temperature of her blood. The grass waves now, but not from wind, from breath. Her breath. She stands at the center of something ancient and artificial, not alien, not divine, designed. Not for humans, but for someone. And maybe once, long ago, we were them. Or maybe we still are. And this planet remembers the version of us we abandoned. Not the violent, clever, anxious species we became, but the one that could still listen. She closes her eyes, feels the rhythm of the ground beneath her. Not seismic, not mechanical, biological. Like the pulse of a dormant animal waking in response to her presence. Not out of hunger, not out of recognition, out of rhythm. Out of need. This isn't contact, it's realignment. There's a moment when the abstract becomes personal, when the idea of a perfect world stops being a concept and starts becoming a mirror. She walks now through an open valley, though nothing here feels natural. The terrain is too balanced. The hills seem placed, not formed. The plants shift position over time, subtly rearranging themselves like furniture moved in sleep. Above her, the clouds don't drift. They pivot, as if orbiting a center she cannot locate. And still, the deeper she goes, the more the world starts to resemble her. Not in shape, in thought, in mood. The color of the sky pulses with her pulse. The air thickens when she hesitates. When she closes her eyes, the ambient light dims, and when she opens them, it returns half a second behind like a loyal reflection. It's not just synchronicity, it's fluency. The planet speaks her fluently, and she's beginning to forget the language of anywhere else. There's a fact she remembers from training, one she never cared for until now. The human body emits about 100 watts of heat at rest. Enough to power a light bulb. Enough to be traced, to be read. Enough for a responsive system to build an entire environment around a single signature. It's not hard to imagine a world tuned not to life in general, but to each visitor's biometric print, their rhythms, their thresholds, their emotional voltage. Here, that fantasy walks beside her. She can almost see its outline, the way the grass parts an instant before her step, the way distant forms dissolve when she looks too long. Nothing intrudes, nothing resists. The planet is folding around her the way a shell might grow around a pearl, not trapping her, shaping itself to her presence. She finds a pool, shallow, black, not reflective, but absorptive. It doesn't show her image. It seems to take it, as if making a copy. She kneels and touches the surface. The sensation isn't wet. It's identical to touching her own skin, temperature, texture, even the small imperfections, as if the world has scanned her completely and now mimics her, not out of flattery, but function. She withdraws her hand. The surface closes, leaving no ripple, no evidence she was ever there. The unsettling part isn't that the planet understands her, it's that it makes no distinction between her and itself. Boundaries are dissolving, slowly, precisely. And she isn't fighting it. She feels less like a visitor, more like an organ being reabsorbed into a forgotten body, and the comfort is disorienting. Not because it's unfamiliar, but because it's too familiar. Like remembering a lullaby she never learned, a gesture that precedes language. A formation rises in the distance, towering, crystalline, but not a building. It's more like a growth, as if the planet has decided to elevate a memory. She walks toward it. The air thickens but doesn't press. It welcomes. And when she reaches the base, she sees it, etched into the structure faintly in contours not quite visual, her name. Not as a label, as a memory. Not engraved, recognized. She doesn't cry, there's no rupture. Just the settling sensation that maybe she's not on a new planet at all. Maybe she's home. Not the home she was born into, but the one that once made her. And this changes everything, because if a world can remember you, who are you without it? She walks along a ridge now, above a field of light, not illumination, not electricity, something gentler. Bioluminescent data, drifting in coils. The terrain speaks in spirals, nothing linear here. Time bends, cause and effect blend. There are no signs of other travelers, no ruins, no warnings. But she knows others have been here. Maybe not humans, maybe not recently, but presence lingers. This place remembers contact the way skin remembers heat, through texture, through trace. She sits, not to rest, to listen, not with ears, with weight, with breath. The kind of listening that happens when thought stops narrating. Her memories rearrange, childhood events lose their sequence. Grief becomes location. Joy becomes temperature. And in that realignment, she understands this planet doesn't want to be lived on. It wants to be lived as, not a home, a co-body, a distributed self. The planet isn't offering shelter, it's offering identity. She removes the suit entirely now. It feels ceremonial, not defiant. The material falls silently. The temperature matches her skin. Nothing stings, nothing bites. And standing there, unclothed, unhidden, unedited, she feels lighter, not physically. Conceptually, the version of her that required protection no longer fits. Her fears are still there, but they've been reframed. The planet doesn't erase emotion. It reroutes it. Loss becomes pattern. Shame becomes humidity, hope, color. The stars begin to return, slowly, faintly, as if being remembered by the sky itself. Their positions unfamiliar, not random, choreographed. Like the night is an interface now, a map drawn not in geography, but in desire. And she feels it all settling into place. Her body, the planet, the sequence of forgetting and finding again. There's no music, but she hears rhythm. There's no end, but she feels culmination. The planet doesn't want her to stay, it wants her to continue. And maybe that's the difference between being welcomed and being transformed. She exhales, and the stars respond. She moves without urgency now. The path is no longer linear. It folds, reshapes, curves gently around her like a language learned long ago and only now recalled. There are no questions left to ask, only presence left to inhabit. The planet no longer responds to her steps. It synchronizes, not in the way a machine calibrates, but the way a body reabsorbs what once belonged to it. The world is no longer a setting, it's a continuation. Every surface seems to anticipate her internal state, her breath, her hesitation, her memories, and not to reflect them but to unfold them. She doesn't look for answers anymore. She's learning to translate sensation into understanding, not through thought but through rhythm. The light changes again, not by the hour but by mood. The air thickens slightly, not from humidity but from meaning. And ahead a structure rises. Neither building nor sculpture, but something between monument and organ. It pulses faintly, not in warning, not in invitation, but in acknowledgement, as if it has known her longer than she's known herself. She steps closer. The texture is unlike anything she's touched, smooth, yes, but layered with invisible memory. When her hand makes contact, she feels not resistance, but recall, a warmth that doesn't come from heat, more like recognition compressed into touch. And in that moment, she feels her entire life replay, not as narrative, but as pattern. Moments she thought forgotten return, not as images, but as forms. A curved hallway, a broken dish, the sound of a voice in another room. These fragments dissolve into something broader, something she cannot name but instantly understands. This place has not been waiting for her story. It has been waiting to complete its own, through her, with her, beyond her. There is no fear now. Even the anxiety of perfection has fallen away. What once felt uncanny has become inevitable. The world doesn't feel like the future or the past. It feels like recursion, an idea returned, refined, reborn. She sits beneath the structure. The ground cools in response. She closes her eyes, not to escape but to expand. And in that darkness, something opens. Not above, not below, but within. A frequency, a statement without words. Not a voice, not an image, a shift. What if the most habitable planet was never a destination, but a frequency? Not found, but tuned. Not colonized, but remembered. And what if memory is not something we carry, but something we enter? A place not mapped in space, but in resonance. She exhales. The ground exhales with her. The structure dims slightly as if concluding an unnoticed protocol. Around her the terrain holds its form, but now it feels like pause, not permanence. As if the entire world has reached stillness not through stilling but through saturation. There is nothing more to show, nothing more to adjust. The integration is complete, not of body into planet, but of separation into unity. She stands, slowly. The world does not react, it simply continues. And she realizes this was never a story about contact. It was a story about return. She turns back. There is no path, there never was. The terrain was never made to guide. It was made to mirror. What remains is not knowledge, it's trace, an imprint, a shape left behind not in soil but in perception. She walks not toward a ship, not toward escape, but toward continuity. The idea of leaving no longer applies. She is not departing, she is extending. Her body still moves, but the concept of movement has dissolved. There is no inside, no outside, no threshold. The planet is not a host, it's an echo. And she is no longer the signal, she is the return wave. Above, the stars re-emerge, unfamiliar but no longer distant. Their arrangement suggests not space but memory, constellations that map emotion, not location. They do not shine, they listen. And as she looks up, she understands she is not alone. Not in the conventional sense, but in the sense that her pattern has been received, duplicated, distributed. The planet is not a replica of Earth. Earth is a degraded memory of this, and she is not its explorer. She is its fragment. And so the final question doesn't come as revelation. It arrives as calibration, not loud, not soft, just certain. What if the most habitable planet wasn't waiting to be found, but was waiting to become you? She breathes in.